Welcome to All In with Evan Jarvis, the poker podcast where we go all in with poker champions past, present, and future. Welcome to All In with Evan Jarvis. Today, you're going to get to meet one of my very best friends in the poker world. You're going to get to meet one of my main study buddies over the last 3 or 4 years. Someone who has had a big impact in the results that I have had on the table. His name is Ali Imsirovic, full name Almudin Imsirovic, but he goes by Ali Imsirovic. You probably know him on Instagram as All In Ali and on Twitter as Ali23 Imsirovic. He's been in the game for a while now, and his results just keep getting better and better and better. And it's probably because of his love of the game, his desire to be successful, his work ethic. The guy puts in crazy hours, but also just the attitude he has. He doesn't take things too seriously. He definitely knows how to relax and enjoy himself. And he's just always looking to be a better version of himself. Just for some context, because we're now in middle of May and a lot has changed since the recording. This podcast episode was recorded in early November of last year. It was right before Ali was going to Vegas, but I said, let's get a talk in. On my last episode, I had a talk with our good buddy Blake, and he went on to have a huge win right after. So if there's anything that I can do to assist you, Ali, in getting great results, let's have a conversation and see what we might be able to spark. And sure enough, Ali lived up to that in major form, starting a Charlie Carroll-esque heater. He started with a 4th place finish in a circuit event in Las Vegas for $84,000. He followed this up with a 4th place finish in a high roller at the Bellagio for $28,000 and closed out that trip with a 4th place finish in a charity poker tour main event for $61,000. And that wasn't it. 2 months later, after the Christmas holidays and the New Year kicked off, he won the 10K at the PokerStars Caribbean Adventure for $160,000, beating a field of almost exclusively top pros. And he then went on a tear online, landing tons of scores on America's Card Room, because that's pretty much the only site that he can play on, being in America, ending up being ranked number 1 on the site for tournament caches, all of which culminated in him winning the $1 Million Sunday, the biggest American tournament of the week, for $162,000. This was after he had final tabled it the week before, finishing either 4th or 5th place for, like a 50K score. So consistency is really clearly a major element in Ali's repertoire. Ali is one of my most successful students, but much more than that, we've cultivated a great friendship over the years. I've learned a lot from him, both strategically and just as a human being, as a reflection. He's very good at listening and very good at holding space. So I'd like to thank him for that. I'm sure he's listening. So I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you'll learn some lessons that help you boost your confidence and build your bankroll. Now, without further ado, let's get stacking.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure talking to you. So I was very happy to get on your pod.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited for this. I feel like you are the person who, since Grips really took off, are the person that I talk the most strategy with, both poker strategy and life strategy. So I think it's pretty cool that people are going to get to have a little behind the scenes look and a little behind the scene listen on some of the magic that we get going on these Skype calls here.
Right. I mean, we've had some really long, even in-person conversations, and you're basically a mentor to me. So it's I don't know. We've had a lot of discussions about a lot of random stuff and poker stuff and just weird stuff, I guess, as well.
Yeah, we definitely go out there. It seems everything usually centers around living a higher quality of life one way or another, even if they're not mainstream things. And I think that's cool. You're someone who's looking to live the best life you can and be the best person you can be. That's something that resonates with me. And you're someone who like, dude, it's just always really easy to share stuff with you. You're very open, and that's a really good trait to have.
I appreciate it. I mean, to be fair, a lot of the like stuff I learned about like being open, just like growing as a person, is from you, honestly.
Okay, the beauty of the ripple effect. And I have my teachers to thank for that as well. So it's cool to see how that works. All right, so we just got back from a pretty epic trip. Ali and I and a whole slew of other gripsters were in Punta Cana for the Punta Cana Poker Classic just a couple weeks ago. In my opinion, best trip of the year. Ali, where do you think it ranks?
So last time I went, I would say it was the best trip of my life, and I didn't have very many friends there at the time. I think it was just basically me, you, and Try Me just hanging out a lot. But like it was just really enjoyable. We only played one tournament, I think, and we basically just relaxed the whole time. It was kind of nice just getting away for a little bit and just talking about a lot of stuff. This trip was even better in my opinion. It was a little different because basically all my poker friends showed up and I met a lot of different people as well. Every single time at dinner there would be like at least like eight or more of us at a table, and I had probably just met like three of them. So it was really nice meeting all these new people and spending time with pretty much all my best poker friends was really nice. Getting to win a small little tournament with a bunch of my friends railing me felt awesome. It wasn't even about the money, it was just like the experience was super sick.
Yeah, so Ali shipped a $500 side event for like just shy of $10,000. He got heads up with a friend, but there's like a whole lot of backstory to this. So should I tell them, Ali? Should I just like dig into?
Go for it.
Okay, so I have this thing where in my sleep and in my dreams, I often see the future. And this was one of the cases where it came into play. So one night I had a dream that Ali was at a final table and he was texting someone. I thought maybe it was his sister or his mom. I didn't know who, but he was texting someone saying, runaway chip lead with 8 left. And whoever was texting him said, like, just ship this thing, let's go. And then, you know how dreams are. You don't see every detail along the way. There was kind of just some like stuff in between. And then next thing I knew, we were all celebrating together. So I got up the next day and I'm like, Ali, you're going to win in Punta Cana. I had a vision. You're going to win. This is what I saw. This is what happened. And you're going to win. He's like, cool, man. If I'm going to win, like, that's sweet. Obviously, we're hoping it's the main event. We're hoping it's the high roller. But all I know for sure is that he's going to win something. And I think it was 4 days or so before the trip, while Ali was in the middle of a prop bet, which we're going to talk about as well on this episode, I was checking the lobby to see if he was still in any tournaments for the day. And I pulled up the America's Card Room lobby. I looked through everything. I didn't see him. So I just sent him a message saying, like, good luck tomorrow. Hope you crush him on Sunday and win your prop bet. And he's like, well, you know I'm in a tourney right now, right? I'm like, oh, you are? He's like, yeah, I'm in a tourney with 8 people left. And I'm like, okay, this is a little familiar. And he's like, I'm in second. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not it because he's 2 of 8. In the vision, he said he had a runaway chip lead. So I go to the table, though, and yeah, he's in second, but 1 and 2 are way out ahead of everyone else. So I'm like, okay, like maybe this is what the vision is about. And, the instant messaging is me and him talking on Facebook and being like, yo, just ship it. So he ended up getting second in that, which was a pretty helpful tournament for his side bet as well. And I'm like, okay, maybe that was the dream. And he's like, I hope not, man, because I really want to win in Punta Cana. Fast forward a week later, I'm down at the beachfront restaurant with Mitch and Waddy and Rock and Mitya and Alex and some of the other guys from the trip. And we're playing drinking games because, that's what you got to do when you're bonding at all-inclusive resorts. And Waddy is texting Ali, and he's like, guys, Ali just told me he's the runaway chip leader with 8 people left. And then Mitch is like, all right, dude, like, let's go. We got to go sweat this. So we hopped on the golf carts and made our way up to the tournament. And I think it was about an hour and a half later, you were heads up with your buddy who you agreed that you would get heads up with when you made the final table. You want to
Yeah.
kind of take it from there?
Yeah. So I'm gonna rewind a little bit where I basically didn't even like wasn't even planning on playing this tournament. We were at the beach just relaxing, and my friend Brock shows up and is like, "Hey, he just busted the main that day as well," and he was like, "Hey, there's a 5:50 at 6 or 7 p.m. or something." And I was just like, "Dude, I'm just gonna relax. I don't care that much about that tournament." And then we go to dinner. And there's a bunch of us at dinner, and Brock's still trying to convince me. And I was just like, all right, guys, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to go, I'm going to bust in 30 minutes, or I'm going to have all the chips. So then Brock and I went, and like the first orbit, I actually busted him in a hand, and then like I doubled like a few hands later. I was like, yeah, now I have all the chips. So we basically just played out with like 15 left. There was me and two of my friends still in. We were grinding down, and with like 10 or 9 left, I think there was like 10 left and like 9 paid, and I was like a mid stack, and then I played a big hand and ended up double up and being a chip leader. And then yeah, I texted Wadi and was like, hey, runaway chip leader in this tournament. And then just I just see like the whole crew just like show up here, and everybody's like kind of drunk or like pretty drunk. So I just have like this big drunken rail, and Mitch is just yelling obscenities behind me every single hand. It was just like the best thing ever. And then when you joined the final table, I told my friend John that we were going to get heads up. And then with 4 left, me and two of my friends are still in. I bust one of my friends in fourth, and then John and I get heads up. And there was no deal. We just played it out and ended up getting the win. No trophy, but it still felt really nice. And then we basically just celebrated all night after that. It wasn't even a big win or anything, but it was just like super nice to get the win with friends there and being able to celebrate with everybody. It was an awesome experience.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about like how much more fun it is when you actually have a crew there who's rooting with you and a crew who you get to like share the moment with and celebrate with after it's all done?
Right. So actually, really funny. I when I busted my friend Brock, like it's like not like a big tournament for either of us or anything. So we're having a lot of fun. So I busted him and like we were just joking around, like spin the shit a little bit, and then later he re-enters and I bust him again in like a funny way where he's under the gun and he's like, I would like to wager all of my betting units and I don't know if plus one. I look at my hand, I was like, me too. And I just like threw my stack out there and he was just like, oh fuck. And then I ended up busting him, but it was just like so much fun. Usually in poker tournaments, people are just like super serious. It's like definitely not the best atmosphere, but with like I had him at my table quite a bit. My friend John was at the table the whole time. And then my other friend Adam was at the table for like most of the time I played. So just being able to like talk with friends while playing and just have fun throughout the whole tournament was amazing. And then the celebrating part after was so nice because you basically just chilling back, talking with friends for hours, and we're not even talking about Pokemon. We're just like talking about random stuff, just literally laughing the whole time. It's honestly just so nice.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes down to it, there aren't many things that are more enjoyable than just like socializing with the people you care about.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Before in my life, I feel like I was like mostly like introverted, honestly. Like now I feel like I'm more on the opposite side, but back in the day when I was like I want to say like 16, 17, I was definitely much more introverted for some reason, and I definitely was like not even close to being as happy as I am now. And now with like I have a bunch of like friends that like I care about, and getting to hang out with them all the time and just doing whatever. It doesn't even matter what you're doing pretty much. It's just makes life so much better.
Yeah, it's amazing the correlation between like relationships and happiness. And I've heard about those studies where they say there's no correlation with wealth and happiness beyond having the basic means to survive. And there's not a huge correlation with like different career types and happiness, but it's like the quality of your relationships. And, introvert, extrovert, I actually don't even think those are like real things where it's like, oh, I am an introvert or like, oh, I am an extrovert, like this label. I think that we're like the full spectrum. And where we fall on the spectrum of introversion versus extroversion really comes down to how much practice we've had in social situations and what types of experiences we've had. Like if we have had negative experiences being around people, naturally we're going to be more inclined to be introverted and shy away from people. Whereas, like, if we're born and raised in an environment where we just have tons of positive experiences being around people and we associate humans with like connection and happiness and joy, we're going to be extroverted because we're going to be drawn towards that. Being around people is something that gives us pleasure.
I guess the reason I would say I was probably more intro like it's kind of funny, but it was kind of because I was around people a lot. Because when I was growing up, I was playing a lot of basketball, so it was just very competitive, very
Yeah.
cutthroat. If you like mess up or just like you basically get made fun of, or it's not like serious or anything. It's definitely high intensity, like not much relaxing going on there, you know. So I would assume that's why I was more introverted. How were you when you were younger? Were you the same, or?
Dude, that makes total sense, actually, now that you say that. I was definitely pretty introverted, yet, like, in certain settings, I could be, like, super extroverted. Like, I was in theater and I was a really good actor, but, like, I actually saw a therapist, I think just, like, twice. And then I'm like, nah, like, therapists are like dust. Like, they can't solve my problems, because at the time I wasn't clear on what the problems actually were. But I actually saw a therapist to talk about social anxiety and how I felt anxious in social situations. But now, as I've had more time to grow and understand myself and reflect on it, I realize that in one on ones, I feel great. And actually, even in like groups of 3 or groups of 4, I feel great. And it's only in big crowds that I would get overwhelmed. Naturally, like, you put an animal in a room with like 100 other animals, it's probably going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I also found that if the group is the right group of people, I feel great. And I can either be really social or very receptive, but I'm very engaged. And it was actually when I was trying to put myself in situations with people I couldn't relate to, or who were into things that I really wasn't into, or that I would like try to get into but be uncomfortable with getting into them, you name it, that I felt that anxiety and I felt that worry. And it was really just that, like, I wasn't resonating with my true self. I was trying to be someone that I wasn't. I was trying to associate with a different archetype or a different personality type. And that's a lot more difficult than just playing our natural self, because, I was into gaming. So I would have been in the nerd class. You know how in like high school, it's a weird time and the jocks can be mean to the nerds and stuff. So I was like, oh, I don't want to be a nerd. Like, I'll just get made fun of. So like, maybe I'll try to be a jock, and like picture like 100-pound grade 9 guy try to play football. That's not gonna go so well. And then I'm like, okay, I can't do sports. Maybe I'll do theater. I'm like, oh, I can't do theater, which I was fine at actually. But I was like, oh, I'm not the lead, so I'll be a partier. And I just tried all these things, and really, like, I just needed to embrace that. For me, my competitive outlet was found in gaming, and that I actually preferred working in teams. And that's where MMORPGs, online role-playing games where you get in a party and you get in a group, those were my favorite thing, because I could work on my character on my own and get strong. And then as I was stronger, I could fit in with a group and we could do more together. But I didn't know who to talk to about that at school. So I just felt like in school, I'm like, I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who to connect with. So I guess I'm just like socially awkward. But it was really just a matter of kind of not knowing where to find my fit, my natural fit, where it's easy, as opposed to just being like, I guess I don't know how to talk to people at all. Know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like you pretty much embraced that with grips. Honestly, the whole loving gaming. Poker is basically a game, and then you always want to be on a team, and you just develop this like core group of people, team grips. It's actually pretty sick.
Yeah, it's a real blessing, honestly. And there was a period where I had some discomfort, and that's when it was about competition, where I'm like, oh, who's the best? How can I be the best streamer? I need to be the best player. I need to get the biggest wins. But it's like, there's always going to be other people coming in who have more skills and can get higher results, and someone's going to beat your high score and knock your name off the top of that machine. But if you're having fun, that's all that matters. Going for high scores is just a way to be like driven, but realizing that it's about the fun of having the experience and sharing it more so than like being number one, in terms of happiness, at least. I think that's what the stream and the channel can do if done right. But I had periods where I wasn't sure, because although the
Right.
community's there, I'm like, I'm still in my apartment on my computer by myself. I'm not actually with people. So those get-togethers are where it's totally different. It's like we're actually together.
In poker in general, it's really hard to cultivate that. You're literally just by yourself almost every day, grinding by yourself. And yeah, you have like your friends like on Skype and stuff. But unless they're like with you grinding along, or if you guys are doing other stuff, it's really hard to cultivate that happiness with like basically group bonding.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit, because I think it was 2 years ago, pretty much, when we first launched the forum, that you and Rock started connecting. And it wasn't too long before you were traveling together, and now you've added a third guy to the crew, and maybe more in the future. What's it been like having a travel buddy and someone that you actually play with, that you're together in real life, you travel together, you share stuff with? How has that shifted your feelings around poker and online poker?
Let me just start with the story of how I met real quick. I was on the Grips forum and I saw that there were a couple of guys were building a Skype group chat where they was gonna like talk strat and stuff. And I saw it, so I was like, okay, I'll join. I'll see what's going on. So I joined in, and basically Rock had just won a tournament or got second in a tournament for like 18K or something, and he wanted to review it basically in a Skype group. I started like typing. I was like, okay, I'll hop on, and it was him and my friend Scott and me, and we were reviewing his hand history. It was basically just me berating him for like 3.5 hours. I was just like, this can't be right. This can't be right. What are you doing here? Why are you checking a set on the river? Like just like a bunch of like spots. But then it was funny because like after talking to him more, it was him and I basically think very similarly about everything and just look at things in a very similar way. Basically, like vibe pretty well almost instantly. We continue to talk, and then I think this was around March or April. World Series was coming around in early June. This could be my first summer. So we were talking about, hey, let's get a place. And this is the first time I met him in person, and we spent like a month and a half in Vegas. We both lost money that trip. We did a lot of like dumb things, and it didn't go particularly well. But it was honestly just so much fun. Like if I was there by myself and losing that money, I feel like I would be so insanely miserable. But like just having him there and us just like vent to each other as well as just like talk about other stuff other than poker was just so nice. It's kind of like eye opening, just like, see how much like another person being there can affect how you feel in a way. And even though like if he wasn't there, I would be miserable. And with him there, like I was totally happy. So it's just a really funny thing that like one person can affect you that much.
And do you guys motivate each other to be better? Is there like a little bit of competitive drive with the two of you? What's the dynamic kind of like?
The dynamic early on was basically it was like me coaching him for a little bit, and like there's still some of that, but like we're both playing basically the same stakes right now. We're both in Vegas together right now, along with Wadi, and basically every day we're just like, all right, we set a number that we want to get to, and we're just okay, who can get there first for today, and we're like talking shit to each other while playing. So it's just like a lot of fun.
I love it, man. I love it. That reminds me of when I first started out. I had a roommate, and we were both playing similar games. And it was just when you're grinding, and you have someone else grinding as well, it just motivates you to like stay on your A game and take things serious and like really respect the process because there's some accountability there. Even if you know they're not going to give you a hard time, just that you know someone else is aware of what you're doing leads you to be like, okay, I'm going to take this a bit more seriously. Whereas when like no one's there at all, you can be like, oh, like this was a practice game. It doesn't count kind of thing because no one's actually seeing it.
Right.
So you've done some traveling. You've been playing some live poker. You played live poker at home. You've gone to Vegas to play live. You've also played live poker in Europe. I know you've also played a bunch of online poker all over the world, both in tournament and cash game format. So I'm curious if you could tell us in your time playing and traveling over the past 4 years or so, how you feel the tournament lifestyle and the cash lifestyle differ.
Well, the tournament lifestyle is the most hectic fucking thing ever. It's a bunch of degens, a bunch of miserable people. Honestly, like I love tournaments, so I still play them, of course. But the tournament lifestyle is like super hectic. You basically have to play until you bust, basically, and you're set to a schedule, which is kind of funny because I feel like one of the reasons that most people get into poker is for the like actual freedom. So the fact that they're playing tournaments kind of doesn't make sense in that way. But tournaments are still like a lot of fun. I enjoyed them a lot, and my friends enjoyed them a lot as well. Just because there's like so many different like factors that you got to take into account. While in cash games things are much more static, but at the same time in cash games the lifestyle is much more doable and like not ridiculous. You can play on your own schedule. You can play as much as you want or as little as you want, and you can do whatever you want outside of poker. If like your friends want to go out and like do something, you can just be like, okay, I'm gonna quit my session right now. While in tournaments, if you're like have 3 tables left and it's like 9 p.m., friends are like, oh, let's go out. And you're just like, oh, I can't. I have to do this. And then like you have no clue when you're gonna be done, so they're not gonna wait for you. I feel like the tournament lifestyle is more of a I would say individual. I don't want to use the word introvert again, but kind of in that way. While cash game lifestyle, you can basically live a very similar life to most people. While in tournaments, I don't think that's really doable.
And that brings me to something because I know you said if you got 3 tables left, you can't just leave, right? You can't just leave your tables because, you got to finish them out. But I'm pretty sure you did that once where you were like deep in some tournaments and you just left them because you had a friend that needed to see you or something. Can you talk about that story a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I feel like I've like left a few times before, but actually twice for like really serious things, and one just because I had like one or two tournaments left, and they're like kind of small, and my friends wanted to go. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna like take the L in these tournaments and leave. But the other two times were like real reasons, I suppose. I don't want to like say my friends like what happened, but like some like kind of like somewhat tragic in a way stuff happened, and they like needed me to like be there or like get them or something. How we were talking about earlier, like the friendships you have and like the connection you give other people is going to be like much more important than almost any amount of money you could obtain through poker. Actually, both times I had like at least like 10 tables left, and like I just like left like I probably lost like 2K in EV or something, but it's like it doesn't matter, it's not going to affect my life to lose $2,000 while like me being there for them is going to affect their life a lot in that moment. So it was just like an easy decision.
Yeah, it's definitely true that money comes and goes. And I mean, the number you put out there, a lot of people, myself included, are like, man, like 2K, like that's a good chunk of money. But the thing is, money comes and goes, whereas friends can be there forever. And when we can be there for our friends when they really need us and show them that they're actually that important to us, that we're willing to put other things aside, that definitely comes back to us in a positive way. And it sounds to me like you've got a great head on your shoulders that friendship and relationship is more important than any amount of money. That's a recipe for a happy future, I think.
Yeah, I've gone up to your place like twice. Both times I played some poker, but basically the reason I went wasn't for the poker. Like it was like neither time was actually for the poker. It was honestly just like being able to be there, like with you and just like learn from you and grow as a person was just like so much more beneficial. Like the second time I lost money and like I literally did not care at all about like the amount of money I lost.
And now you know why I came to Punta Cana. Even though I was like so rusty and so to form and like definitely made some really bad plays, I'm like, I just want to be here with the boys.
Yeah.
I play the tourney because it's here, but like that's just the excuse to get together. I'm like, I just want to be here with the boys.
Yeah, like having Mitch at the rail was honestly the best thing ever. Just like every single hand, he would just say something absurd. He would be like, "Ollie broke up with two girls at the same time," or like, or he would be like, "Hey Ollie, did you tell him that you got 12th in the main event for 754K?" Or like he just like kept saying like just like super random stuff. I don't know why he was saying all this stuff, but it was so hilarious to me that I was just enjoying the moment so much.
Yeah, that's a lot like what our chiropractor, Greg and I's chiropractor, was like back in 2012 and the other years when he came to support us. He'd be there at the rail. He'd be standing there supporting and like smiling whenever you looked over, but he'd have some chirps here and there. And it's really funny to just have that positive, playful energy going on in the background where like you're still taking things serious, but it's like you can still feel like you're having fun because you see your buddies are having fun.
Yeah.
And you know that like when it's all said and done, you're going to be there too. And the better you perform, the more you can enjoy the celebration thereafter.
Exactly. Like when we got down to the final 10 where we went into one table, me and my two friends were having like a blast, and the other seven people were just like super. And like, it was just like funny, like the difference. Like me and my friends were just like laughing the whole time, and then everybody's like super serious, just like not even like looking up. I was just like, it's just really amusing to me.
You're like, it's just poker.
Yeah.
It's just a game.
Yeah.
But like when you don't have your homies there, it's like I gotta perform well, and there's more pressure. Definitely.
You would say there's more pressure without your friends there or with your friends there?
I would say when your friends aren't there, it feels like there's more pressure because your experience is more tied to your results. Obviously, you can also tie it to how much you enjoy it and the quality of your decisions, but your experience and your overall feeling is going to be more tied to your results. Whereas when your friends are there, you're having a positive experience just from being in their company as well as playing. Mm-hmm. So you're like, even if I lose, I'm still going to be with my friends, so it's all good. Whereas when you don't have friends there, you're like, I don't want to lose because that means this is over. And when this is over, what am I going to do? It's not going to be as enjoyable as what I'm doing now. So I need to make this last. I need to keep it going.
Well, that's really interesting. I actually would have assumed it would be the opposite, but I actually see your point here. I assume it would be like with your friends there that like if you make a bad play, they're just like, "What are you doing?" Sometimes, or like you look bad, but like if they're your friends, it doesn't actually matter. And then if you are by yourself, it's literally just like all you care about is like moving up and doing better in the tournament. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And it's exactly what you were talking about earlier with like the high school kids. Like if it's your high school friends or just their high school people who are on the rail, yeah, there's more pressure because they're going to like make fun of you when you make mistakes. But if you have people there who are actually your friends, who actually care about you and just want to see you do well and support you, then it's going to be a very different experience. And that's kind of what I was saying. The experiences we have with people shapes what our expectations are going to be in the future, even if it's not like the actual reality. Having the right people is essential.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one other question about tournaments versus cash?
Go for it.
Okay, do you think tournaments are more profitable than cash games? Or do you think it's that they have an extra level of excitement and adrenaline associated with them and that's why people play them?
Well, I think people play them for the second reason, but I do think that tournaments are more profitable than cash. I mean, it depends on the stakes, of course, but if it's about the same stakes between tournaments and cash, unless the cash game is very, very soft, I believe the tournament is just going to have a higher return on your investment almost always. It is like much more volatile and it doesn't always feel like it because you can lose like 20, 30 straight tournaments, while when you're playing cash, it's like very, very tough to lose 20, 30 straight sessions. But I think in the long run, tournaments are definitely more profitable. Can be more time consuming as well, but I would give the up to tournaments. Especially live poker with tournaments are like pretty much booming. Honestly, they're doing about the best they've done in a long time. I think. I think back in the day, cash games were probably more profitable, but cash games are definitely getting significantly tougher. And I mean, they're still very soft. Like, don't get me wrong, and you can still make a lot of money just playing cash games only. But I would say tournaments are more profitable. But for a living, you want to do both for sure.
Yeah, because that's the question I always think is like, yeah, I have a higher expectation in the tournament, but if I break it down to my hourly and actually factor how many hours I have to be in there compared to cash, is it still higher than if I just played, 30 hours of cash games and really break down the numbers? But you're right. Tournaments are definitely doing better than ever. PokerStars lineup is solid. Party Poker seems to have a tournament in like every single country around the world. So, and 888 Live's doing their thing. I think poker tournaments are going to be looking really good in 2018. PCA is a 10K buy-in again. They have like more affordable buy-ins for everyone. I really like the way things look for tournament poker. And like, even if people aren't going to grind tournaments professionally, I've done both. And I'm with Ali, like play cash games as your primary source of income and then play tournaments for fun and as an opportunity to parlay your skills into like a big payday because they're definitely softer. But the fact that they have tournaments in every country is sweet because it's like that can be like a meetup point for people who play but otherwise don't spend time together. It's like they meet at the tournament. That's kind of the connecting place. They get to potentially have the shared experience and then crew up and have things they can do after together. So like tournaments are really good for bringing people together. And then the key is just being open when you get there, which is hard if you go by yourself. But I find like even if you have like one friend, it's a lot easier to be open and like meet other people then, which is, I think, yeah, obviously winning's great and the high that comes with winning's pretty epic, but meeting people is what these events are all about, where everyone is in the same place, like the World Series of Poker and stuff.
It's so brutal by yourself. My first ever live trip was, I think, in like August 2015 or something. I went to WPT Choctaw. I literally was just by myself. I didn't know anybody. And first off, Choctaw's in the middle of nowhere, so just being there is kind of miserable. The food is like really awful. Just being by yourself, and like I was also losing while I was over there. I think I lost like 15K or something. Which losing, bad food, being isolated, like it was just like the worst fucking experience ever.
Definitely. And like food plays a huge role in it, dude. I've had so many trips that were brutal. And then when I looked at what I was eating, I'm like, oh, standard American fast food diet.
Exactly.
Of course I was feeling bad. All In is brought to you by Grips Poker Training, where we teach you how to get stacking. Visit www.grips.com to find out more about our holistic approach, which will help you transform your game and transform your life. And if you're interested in playing online poker, visit www.grips.com/free and receive a free training bundle valued at over $200 when you create a new account at one of our partner sites. That's available at www.gripsed.com/free. Earlier this year at the Hard Rock, you won your first live tournament, and you told me, even though it wasn't a huge amount of money, you felt it was really important to get that win and get that trophy. Did you still feel the same way afterwards, looking back now? And what did it feel like to get that trophy, even though it wasn't your biggest score by any amount?
Yeah, it's really funny. So my goal this year was to play a lot of live poker, and like I've done a lot less than I was planning on, which I'm happy about actually. But so I in January I go to Europe, and I was like I'm gonna travel around Europe for 2.5 months and play some poker and just hang out with my friend here. So I played a few tournaments and I had some deep runs, but I done nothing too deep, and I didn't win anything. And for some reason, when you haven't like won like a live tournament, you're just like, I gotta win this live tournament, man. It's all I want to do. So then, right after Europe, I don't even know if I went home. I think I just went straight to Florida, and my sister met me there, and I got a place at the Hard Rock, and I was gonna play a few tournaments. And one of the first tournaments that I played, it was the 365 six max, and I ended up. I think so. I was feeling really sick actually, so like it wasn't like as good as experience I thought it was gonna be. So I'm playing the tournament and I'm doing well, and then with like 15, 14 left, I like text my sister and I'm like, hey, I am like 11 out of 14. I'm probably gonna bust soon, so I'll let you know if things go better. And like I'm just like doing pretty chill about it. I just like wasn't worried about whatever the result was. I don't know why. I was just like feeling very zen. So then with like 11 left, I like call it off with like fourth pair for like the chip lead and like was correct in like a weird spot. So then I go into the final table as chip leader, and I called my sister. I'm just like, okay, so I'm chip leading this tournament now. If you like reeling, feel free to come down. And then she's just like taking infinite pictures of me playing this tournament. It's like not even that big. It was just like kind of funny to me, and it went well. And I ran good, and then I ended up winning the tournament. And it was just like very relieving. Like just like I finally won a fucking tournament. I don't care how much money it was. I got this trophy, and then what happened after is I had to go home and do something, but there was like the 1100 at 2K, 3.5K, and I was just like, I have to go home and do this, so I'm just gonna go home. I don't care about these tournaments. And like basically, if you want a tournament there, you get a free roll into like this 15-person tournament where like top two get a C into the main. So it's like a lot of extra AV. But I was just like, I won my tournament. I don't care anymore. But like yeah, and like I still really enjoy playing live tournaments for sure. They're a lot of fun. But the actual winning part, winning like a trophy part, is just like way overrated, I think. And just playing good poker is like what I care about now, and just like enjoying experiences with friends. So as long as I'm playing well and having a good time, like I don't care about like the win anymore, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like we got this belief put into us that to be a successful poker player, to be a known poker player, you have to win a tournament.
Yeah,
Like how many bracelets does this guy have? How many EPC titles? And obviously, like if you're playing well and entering those events, you're probably gonna at some point win a bracelet or win like a WPT title. But if you could have like one bracelet and a million in earnings, or you could have like 15 million in earnings because you just got second place in everything but never won. In terms of quality of life, I'm pretty sure the extra 14 mil is going to go a lot farther than
yeah.
that one bracelet.
But I do think that like getting the win was very helpful to me because I just felt like no more pressure when playing tournaments now. Where so I went home and then there was like some stuff going on in Vegas, so I just took a flight to Vegas and I played some random 400 and like FT. Then the next day I played a 1600 there, and I made day three with like 20 left. I was like 16th in chips, so it restarted at noon, right? And I was staying right next to Venetian, and I woke up at like 11:45, and I was staying with Wadi, and he was like, "Dude, you gotta go." I was just like, it's fine. We'll get there in time. And like I walk over, I show up like literally exactly noon, and I'm just like playing like literally just like no cares at all. I was like, I'm just gonna play good poker. I don't care what happens. And like with 11 left, I folded a hand where I should go broke like literally every single time, where I like three bet folded ace king like cut off first hijack for like 30 bigs, and the guy had to show me aces. At like the FT, I like folded like a boat. I folded an overpair once. I made a lot of like folds that were just like not because I was like scared of money. I was just trying to play like really good poker. I was wrong one time, but it would have been a chop in a spot where after doing the math, I still think it was a good fold. I got like six, and like I was like annoyed that I got six for like 20 minutes just because my bust I hand. I think I made a mistake. But like that's the only reason I was annoyed, right? Like I wasn't annoyed that I got sick. I was just annoyed that I like misplayed a hand.
Yeah, and like any money that comes from a tournament score, you're just grateful to receive it. So it sounds like you're saying that you thought you needed to get a win, you thought you needed a trophy, and then once you got it, it took that pressure off. So you were able to go back to playing the way that you wanted to play, and you didn't feel any pressure anymore. So you're able to play more free and more calm because you're like, well, if I play well, but I only get third or second, I've still played well. That's my only job. Whereas before you got the win, you're like, if I don't get first place, this is a failure because I need to win a tournament at some point in my career.
Exactly. Exactly.
I agree with you too. Like even I know my first tournament, I made a chop four-handed, but I'm like, yo, you guys would give me that trophy, or else I ain't making no deal because I need that winner's pick, yo. I got to build that hype. And like it's fun to get the hardware, and it's fun to be the guy that people are taking pictures of, and you get to smile and all that. And like it's cool. But once you've had that feeling once, you realize, okay, there's a lot of other ways that I can get this feeling where I'm happy and I'm smiling and I'm connected. It doesn't have to come from this. Then you could start being like, where do I actually feel it's the best spot to play? Where's the best investment of my time? What's going to give me the best quality of life? And then start making your poker decisions based around that, which leads to making better decisions at the table.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like you have a very strong handle on the game. I know a good amount about how you got here because I've been there for a lot of the process and I've learned a lot from you as well. But for the viewers who maybe, or the listeners who are hearing about you for the first time, or, they've seen you on Instagram but don't know your story, let's talk a little bit about the early years. Like, what got you into poker and what were your first experiences like?
Like I said, very early on in my life, I was very involved with basketball, and then I messed up my ankle like 2 weeks before tryout sophomore year. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not playing this year. So then I was kind of in like a depressed state because like all I hear was basketball. I was like, what do I do now? So I needed something else to like basically fuel my competitive drive in a way. So my dad would play poker with like his friends, and I go to like these like small like games and stuff, and he wouldn't want me to play, because he's like, that's gambling. I don't want you to be a gambler. So that obviously that made me want to do it even more. so I
Dad says no, son says yes.
exactly. So then I started going to Barnes and Noble's, a bookstore here, and I would just read poker books. I started playing some free rolls online, whatever. And then when I was like 18, I think it was Valentine's Day, and I was supposed to go to pick up this girl and just like I didn't know what we were gonna do, but I remember on the way to her place, we were texting, and basically we were arguing about something, and I was just like, okay, fuck this, I'm not gonna come see you now. But the thing is, I was already like close, so I was like, okay, what do I do now? And I look over, and there's like this poker club there because where I live, it's like poker clubs instead of casino. So I go in, I'm like, what, you guys have anything running? Because I just turned 18. It was 18 plus. I was 18 for like 2 weeks now. And I show up, and they're just like, yeah, there's a $60 tournament. And I literally just had $60 that like my dad gave me to like fix my guitar. And I was like, okay, here's $60. And I hop in the tournament, and I win it for more than first place, where first was like, I think it was like 1470, and I had like 1.5 million when the other three people had 100K. And I was like, okay, you guys each give me $10, and then we can do a deal. So I got 1500, and then they got whatever they got. So I started off my poker career with some sun running and running really hot. Then actually for next like month, I basically played at this place probably like 4 times a week, and I had ran my roll up to like, I want to say like 6K in that month. And then I actually ended up getting robbed at a knife point where I didn't have a bank account yet, so I just had all my money on my wallet, and I had parked in like kind of a far away from the place one day, and I was walking home, and I had my wallet on me, and some guy just had to pull a knife on me, and I basically just had to give my wallet. And then after that, I had no money for like 2.5 months. So I just didn't play any poker for those 2.5 months. So then I graduated high school, and I had a graduation party, and I ended up getting like $1,000 from people at my graduation party, which was nice. So I was like, okay, let's go back to poker. My first day back, I win the like noon, like $20 tournament for like $400 or something. And then next day I chop it up, and next day I get third. And that third day, it starts at noon and ends around like 5 p.m. or something. And I go home, I get some sushi with a friend, And that night there was like a monthly main event, $100 rebuy or something. And my friend was like, "Why don't you go play that?" I was like, "Oh, it's kind of like out of my role." He's like, "You're probably just gonna win." And I was like, "You know what? I probably am just gonna win." So then I go play the tournament, and we start with like 12K, and after the first break, I had like 65K or something, and I basically just like cruised to like the win for like 3.5K or something. And then after that, for next like I wouldn't say 2 3 months or so, I just played poker, and started grinding online. So I was grinding like 100 NL online, and then I found the Bovada main event, and on one Sunday I won it. Next Sunday I got third in it. Then 2 Sundays later I win it again, and that was like the most insane like poker month of my life at the time, or like still I guess. And that basically just like jump started my career to like where I can just play high enough stakes that I want to. And winning those tournaments actually like just like motivated me to just like get really good. So I just started watching Run It Once videos just religiously basically after that. And I wasn't even that good when I won those tournaments. Honestly, like I was just playing like very exploitable strategies where I was just like, people are doing this, so I'm just gonna do this because they can't play well against this. Or like I didn't understand mathematically why most players are good. I was just like, it makes sense if they fold to the flop lot, I should just bet everything. Just like super simple stuff. And so then I got better at poker, and I guess since then the rest is history.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a really intuitive feel for how everything worked from the get-go. Because, like, how many books did you read before you played that first $60 game?
I read Gus Hansen's book, like Every Hand Revealed or something. So
Yeah,
I feel like that book is what made me like as loose
yeah,
as I am now, I guess in a way. Because I like from like get go, I was just like super loose. And then I read Negreanu's small ball book. So I was just like playing a lot of pots and just trying to play a small ball, and like
yeah.
at the time that was just like works really well. So that was the only two books I think I had read. That was all I needed, I guess, at the
Yeah,
time.
probably two more books than everyone else in the room had read. That's enough to win.
Exactly.
So, how long was the time window between that first $60 game and between when I guess when I would have got my first email from you after you won the Bovada? How long was the gap there between starting and then getting these like 5-figure scores back to back to back weekends?
The $60 tournament was in February, and I think I messaged you in October or early November. I'm not sure. It was one of the two.
Yeah, October.
So about 8 months.
Wow, you went from a $60 bankroll to like 60K bankroll in 8 months.
Yeah, I mean, I ran really good.
Yeah, really good helps, but it sounds like you learned the strategies and you understood them and you just like played so much and practiced so much that you really had a great feel for what was going on.
Yeah, like when I first started playing online after like playing live, like I already had like 10K to my name from playing live. But I my first 3 weeks on Bovada, I was playing 2 cent, 5 cent Zoom or Zone, whatever. Or I was playing 10 hours a day, just like because financially it's weird. Because when I had that 10K, it felt like all the money in the world. So I was like, I don't even care about money. I just gotta get better at poker. So I was just like playing a lot of poker and like playing really low stakes and just moving up like gradually. I got to 100 NL in like from like 5 NL to 100 NL in like 2 months or whatever. And then I got lucky in the tournaments. And then I started playing 200 NL, 400 NL, and I lost early on obviously because I wasn't that good yet. But then I just got better and started winning in the games.
You say you got lucky in a tournament, but you also put yourself in a position where you were ready. When I first was playing in college, I guess it was in third year, I decided I was going to play cash games because, I'd been watching card runners videos and that's what they played was cash. So I was playing 100 NL and I took my roll from, I don't remember what I started with exactly, but I probably started with like 5K or something, 4 or 5K. And I'd gotten it up to 20K playing 100 NL. And people had asked me, like, why don't I play bigger? I'm like, because I like this limit. I'm good at this limit. Like, I just want to get better. Like you said, I don't care about the money. I'm not like rushing to get to the highest stakes. I want to be doing it right before I move up so that I know I have a strong foundation. And if I hit a downswing, I can go back. And then I played a $5 rebuy satellite to the grand tournament, which was a 1K buy-in tournament on pokerroom.com. And I won a seat. And it was a 6 max tourney which was not suited for me because I was a full ring player whose stats ran something like 9-7 or 10-8. And it was a six max tourney, and it was a 2-day tournament. And I was like, whatever, I'm in for $5. I'm going to play. You know, I played my style, but when like the bubble came and stuff, I went like super exploit, like opening every hand, like 3-betting 7-deuce, because I saw Johnny Backs in Poker X Factor videos doing that. So I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do. And I ended up being short with 30 left and just knitting and grinding my way and sneaking into the final table, 6th place to get 20K to double my bankroll. But it showed that by getting the material in me from those videos and just studying every day and exposing myself to poker every day, that intuitively I knew what to do when the situation came up, even if it wasn't my natural style or my default. I think that's what only comes from playing a lot. You know, we get the foundation from studying, but when we play a lot, we understand. Like you got into a spot in that tournament where you knew how to capitalize, and so you did. Whereas a lot of people, even if they had the same luck you had in those tournaments, would not have got the results they did. Because, like, dude, I reviewed those with you. Like, you outskilled the fuck out of a lot of people in those tournaments.
Yeah, I was just like at the time like 30, 40 left. I was just like, okay, we're gonna care about ICM, but we're not gonna care about the money. We're just gonna fucking like exploit these people because they're gonna play too tight because it's life changing money in a way. Like some people, I remember there was a spot where like I limped Jack 7 blind versus blind. Big blind makes it like 100K with like a million behind, and I just like limp shoved on him for like 1.1 million. I was like, this guy's gonna go for the spot a lot. He's like a reg, and like I just run a table, so he's gonna like race spot every time. So I'm just gonna shove on him. He's gonna fold like almost like so off. Like at the time, I just like didn't even know math. You know, I was just like trying to exploit these guys, and yeah, it worked really well, especially like on the heads up portion of the review that we did, where I think I played. I mean, like I played all hands obviously, but like I think I just like overfolded to like the guy heads up a lot because he was like playing tight, and like I would just steal every pot, and he just kept winning all ins, and like it just like didn't matter because I was just like gonna win this like every time.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're also really, like, talking game flow. You're also very good at anticipating what your opponents are going to do and basically being one step ahead.
Yeah.
So on that note, because I know you've studied a lot of it, how do you feel about the GTO style versus the, you know, YOLO, feel it out, exploit, be intuitive style?
So trying to do just one of those is like I think a clear mistake. Like even if you look at the top players, like I try to study top players like OTB and Linus a lot. They both clearly work a lot with like the solvers, right? But if you watch their game, they're definitely doing a clear like exploitative plays at the same time. Like they're trying to play, you know, like have like a very good understanding of GTO. But they're definitely they both play different styles, right? And they're both studying solvers. So clearly, they're both doing exploitative styles of their own and trying to exploit certain players because of their tendencies. So if you watch top players, consider they're not doing GTO. What makes you think if you're playing 100 NL that you should be playing like a solely GTO style? That it's probably not even GTO because like there's no way you study enough if you're playing 100 NL, right? Especially like live. Like if you watch Charlie play, he's not playing even close to GTO, but he's exploiting the fuck out of everybody with like live reads and their tendencies that he just does really well. He crushes the highest stakes games. So if he's crushing just the highest stakes games without playing a super fundamental strategy, clearly there's something behind it, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think Charlie said he actually hasn't used a lot of software along his journey. He's friends with people who have, so obviously he gets some of the downloads there. But then he himself mostly just got it from playing, talking hands, playing, listening to other perspectives, playing. But he actually didn't spend like time like crunching it out with solvers.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think it's like important to like have like a good fundamental understanding of poker and like work with solvers for sure. Especially as you move higher and higher stakes, the games get tougher, obviously. But just trying to solely play like a quote unquote GTO strategy is definitely not the play. Yeah, I mean there are very few guys that like especially if you look at like live high stakes games, there are very few guys that you can like name to do well that are just trying to play super unexploitable. And like I think I can name like two maybe. If you watch like Bryn Kenny play, he's like the most gangster player ever. There's he himself says he's run very few sims if any, and he just like goes for spots, tries to exploit tendencies of other players, and like from his experience, I do think not using solvers at all and like not getting better fundamental understanding of the game is going to be a mistake, because you can be trying to exploit someone in a way. If you don't understand how exactly you're exploiting them, it doesn't actually make sense, right? Like you can have a general idea, but like if you don't actually know how you're doing it, you could be just making a huge mistake.
Yeah, so do you feel like that studying these softwares and using these tools helps you get aha moments where you get kind of like an understanding of like, oh, that's why I would do that. That's why that play makes sense.
Exactly. Like, especially in Punta Cana, during the main event, I had three of my friends at the same table somehow. It was insane. Basically, my whole like team, it was at the same table, and I did a play where I made like a really weird size on flop and a three up pot to exploit a certain opponent, and all my friends were like, "What the hell are you doing? What was that?" And I was just like, and like the guy like clearly folded a hand he should never fold in that spot, but just because of like my size, I think he folded because he showed it too. So I was just like, all right, this is why I did it. And then, it was like an aha moment for them as well, But well, like, I think because I studied solvers and like understand why this is like hugely plus EV from an exploitive point of view is why it worked.
To me, I kind of think of the betting in poker as a language. And when you make a bet, you're trying to tell your opponent something. But it doesn't so much matter what you're trying to tell them as what they understand. So if you know how your opponent is going to interpret your bet, you can make the perfect bet. And if most people are using solvers, then by studying solvers, you know how people are going to understand your actions to be. Whereas if you haven't studied solver, you don't know the language, you're not going to understand what people are going to get from your bets, and therefore you might like get the wrong outcome because you sent the wrong message.
Actually, I totally agree. The games that I'm currently playing, with my friend and I, like the stakes that we play, we have certain reads on the population where like they do this a lot. So when we do that, we expect them to think that we're doing what they're doing, right? So like we're trying to exploit them in that way by using a certain size where they're like usually bluffing, where it's like induce spots, and like as well as like spots where they always have value, we're trying to put bluffs into that size. And like there's things they do in terms of like triple offs and stuff where they do X and like we're just doing Y every time, because it's just like making so much money because they expect us to do the same thing they're doing. So exploitatively, we're making so much more than them in these games. We're probably like one of the top winners just because of like these exploits that we're doing.
Makes sense. Most people assume that people play how they play. Most people assume that people see the world that they see the world.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier to stay in your own head and just assume everyone else thinks like you than it is to actually put yourself in someone else's shoes and see it from their perspective. Like that is something that takes a lot of practice and it's hard to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it was Bryn Kenny who talked about this actually, the benefits of going on the tour and playing in different countries is because then you kind of learn, okay, like this is how they play poker in Italy. This is how they play poker in France. This is how they play in Monte Carlo. This is how they play in Brazil. This is how they play in America. This is how they play in Australia. This is how they play in Asia. The general population in each country is going to play a slightly different style. And if you haven't exposed yourself to that language, you're going to be confused. You're going to be making the wrong plays because you're making the wrong kind of assumptions and assessment.
Right.
Talking about software, because I know you've used a lot over the years, and you kind of jump from software to software to software. If you were going to recommend 3 pieces of software to someone who had upwards of $400 to spend on poker software, which 3 would you recommend them to get, and in what order?
Okay, so if they have $400 to spend on poker software, I'm gonna assume they're not just like very good player, right? Like they're pretty early in their career and they're getting into poker, so they want to learn, but like I don't want to overwhelm them with some super complicated stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So for tournaments, I would recommend ICMizer for sure. Just like understanding what hands you can go with, and when you're deep in terms, what hands you can't, basically is like huge because most people don't even like understand ICM at all. You don't actually be that good at poker. Like if you have ICMizer, you can just like figure out what hands you should be 3-bet shoving, right? You should be calling it off. When other people are calling off too light in a lot of these spots, I think that itself just is going to make you a lot of money. Stuff like I want like odds oracle, which is like you're basically just inputting hands and seeing percentages of hands versus one another, or like hands like stuff like poker strategy, Equilab and stuff, where it's like very simple software, very easy to use, and just trying to see like how hands run differently on different boards, like how equities run on different boards versus certain hands will help a lot. Because say you have like an idea of what hands your opponent is playing, and you're like, okay, how does my hand do versus their range? And you're just okay, it does okay. I can get it in. And of course, if you're playing online, using stuff like Holdo Manager or PT4 is very useful. Just having stats on all your opponents is huge. Like if you don't have any stats, like you're just guessing a lot, especially if you don't have like a super strong understanding of the game. So having stats, having an idea of how equities run, and understanding ICM better is, I think, the top three I would recommend to softwares to get.
I would agree with that 100%. And the cool thing is, Equilab is free, so you can be running your simulations for free, checking your equity against ranges. Poker Tracker has a 30-day free trial, and if you've already done some work with Equilab, and then you have 30 days to use Poker Tracker, I think there's a pretty good chance you can win the $100 it costs before the trial period's over, especially if you throw a couple of small tournaments in there. Especially like turbos and stuff, small buy-in turbos where people really don't know the ranges. I think that's where you can benefit a lot from having a solid foundation and the ICM understanding of ICMizer to get a really good like parlay for kind of catapulting your bankroll early stages. Those 2, 4, 5, 8, $10 turbos, super soft and pay quite a bit. So I think those are a really good supplement to throw in, with 10, 25, 50 NL. And using those softwares together, I think in a month someone should be able to make $100.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
Minimum, maybe 1,000.
All In is brought to you by 888 Poker, the second largest online poker network in the world, home of the 888 Live Tour and some of the best structured, big guaranteed tournaments online. If you'd like to support the show, visit 888.com and use the promo code ALLIN when you make your first deposit. Make a $20 deposit or more and receive $20 extra in cash to play with instantly. 888 Poker has the softest games online and is a great place to get started in the world of online poker. Don't forget to use the promo code ALLIN to help support this podcast.
What do you think is like a good amount for someone to deposit for the first time? Because personally, I think like doing the free rolls thing is just way too slow, way too frustrating. What do you think is a good like start amount?
To deposit onto like an online site?
Yeah.
I think just like $50 to $100 is like, just play like the $3 like sit and goes or like $2 tournaments or whatever. And like if you lose $50, you can always like just put another $50 on, right? If you have like $1,000 online and you're just like I'm just gonna grind like 5 cent, 10 cent, and like $5 turns or whatever. It's like you see like a big 22 or whatever. You're just like it looks very tempting. So it's very easy to just like hop on a stake that you shouldn't be playing. While if you only have like $50, $100 online, you care about it more. You don't want to lose it. So you're playing like the stakes that you should be, and which will allow you to play good poker as well because you're not nervous about the money.
That's so true, and you feel like you're winning more when you do win that $3 sit and go or that $2 tournament than if you had a 1K roll, because you're like, I just increased my roll like 20% instead of like 1%. And actually, dude, I forgot about sit and goes. That's how I started, right? I deposited 50 and I'm like, okay, like I don't have enough for cash games, but I have enough for 10 sit and goes if I start with the fives. And so I'll just, start with 1-5. And if I win, I'll get to a point where I'm two tabling fives. Once I have $100, I'll two table fives. Then if I get to, I think it was if I had 10 buy-ins, I'd let myself play the higher stakes. So at $100, I could play one $10 game, but if I lost, it was back to the fives. And then when I got to 200, I could play a $20 game, but otherwise it was back to the tens. And I would just like 2, 3, or 4 table. And I found sit and goes were very steady in terms of how they grow the bankroll. They didn't seem to be as swingy as cash in the beginning. And also I thought it was sweet that you get a lot more play for your $5 because you actually get a chip stack. But at the same time, it's not like a tourney where you might be in for like 5 hours.
Actually, like one of the first like video series that I watched was your bankroll builder, and I think like the first few videos you played 5 and 10 cent cash, and I think you made like $5 shifting, and then you played like sit and goes, and you won like all 4 sit and goes, and you like double the roll or something.
Yeah, maybe I'll go back to playing some sit and goes just for show, because like they're really fun, and like you get to learn different stack sizes, you learn the importance of game selection, you learn how to play 10-handed versus short-handed versus heads up. Like in terms of developing your skills early on, especially with like a small dollar risk investment, I think that sit and goes are a fantastic way to go about it. Or like small multi-table sit and goes, like 45 mans or 90 mans or whatever.
Especially if you enjoy tournaments more than cash. Like, it's kind of a tournament. There's still ICM and like pay jumps and stuff, and there's like different stack sizes and blinds, but much lower variance as well.
Totally. Okay, so you talked about the bankroll challenge and the videos on YouTube, which brings me to the next question of like, what role did Grips, the Grips YouTube channel, and the Grips community play in your development as a player?
Like I said earlier on, I started by reading those 2 books. And then when I was like about 17 or 18, like, you read the poker books, but like even back then, poker books are out of date pretty much. So you're looking for something new that you can watch. And at the time, I have no money, right? So I'm just like trying to find like poker content. And the first thing I stumbled upon was your how to make $1,000 in 45 minutes. I think you were playing 1, 2, or 50 cents a dollar. I don't even remember right now. But that was the first thing I watched. I was like, holy fuck, this guy just made $1,000 in 45 minutes. Like, he must be the best. So then I literally just I think for next like few months I just like watched everything. I literally just like watched every single video you had, I think. And the thing is about your videos, it was definitely more like on the exploitative mindset where you're just like, people are doing this, so I'm gonna do this, which I think helped like grow my like exploitative mind in poker, especially like in terms of live poker. That helped me so much when I started, because I was just like, they're overfolding blind versus blind, so I can shove any 2 for 10 big blinds, and just like simple stuff like that. But it just like helped me like have a grasp on like how to think of like spots, especially when I like don't have like a good fundamental understanding. And like it made me a winner in like most of the games I was playing until I moved up to like 200, 400 NL.
Yeah. And yeah, talking about exploits, I was really big on heads up display. I got Poker Tracker the day it came out, and I was using it since the get-go. And I remember I was probably playing like 2-4 no limit. I don't know, I was like 8 tabling or something at this point. And I took a day off to set up my HUD. Because back then, like, it was a lot harder to set it up. So you have to like drag the stats on a grid where you wanted to place them. And like pick them and color code them. And I spent 2 hours organizing my HUD.
Struggle is real.
Yeah, the struggle is real. And it's all the same stats that are in my YouTube video, like how to set up your HUD, minus the time I spent dragging them into place. And I'd watched a lot of Deuces Cracked videos, which broke down the HUD stats, what were like normal ranges for them to fall into. Fun stats like river aggression frequency. If the river aggression frequency's less than 25, they're pretty much never bluffing the river. If it's over 40, they're going to be bluffing a lot on the river. And if it's in between, they're going to be like kind of honest and balanced. So, I'd get to rivers and I just see like, oh, his river aggression's 50. I'm going to check and just call every time. And so knowing which stats to use and having a HUD that was really in depth, when most people were probably using 4 to 6 stats, I was using like 15. Plus I had all my pop-ups done where I was breaking it down like raise first in, but raise first in by position, 3-bet, but 3-bet from position versus position, like all the things. Like my blind versus blind, I had like fold to steal, 3-bet steal, call steal, and like fold to 3-bet when attempting steal from small blind or button or cutoff. So I just had all the stats down that I'm like, okay, I'm just going to play the numbers because I have a very clear read and a clear line on how my opponents are thinking and playing. And therefore I just do the counter adjustment. And that's why I was super exploit, because I just had all the stats and I'd put in so much volume with the same opponents that I had a pretty transparent view of how they approached almost every street, which was super powerful.
Right, that's super smart. I think even like nowadays, especially when like I play tournaments and stuff. Should we get into the challenge? Because I think this challenge I did during the boss series.
Yeah, this is perfect. I meant to bring that up, but yeah, talk about the prop bet you did.
I was playing a lot of cash at the time, right? For the prop bet, and I saw the boss series prop bet. I was like, okay, some like decently high stakes buy-ins where it's actually like makes sense for me to play tournaments instead of cash right now. So I was like, okay, it's still like big, but like it's big, but like I haven't played tournaments that often lately, so I might feel a little rusty. So I felt like I needed like a little bit of motivation. So I on Twitter, I was like, I'll lay an open challenge versus anybody. I'll take myself or Shark Den versus anybody in the boss series in all mutually played events. And a few people like hit me up, but no one committed. And then my friend Ricky, he hit me up and he took his horse, WSP Boy, who is like one of ACR's best players, best tourney players. And I was like, okay, perfect. So boss series was like in 2 days. So that night I just stayed up the whole night just looking through stats I had on every single turning like reg on ACR, including him. And I was just like studying that super hard. And I was just like, okay, their frequencies are out of whack in a lot of spots where it should be this. They're doing this. So like it was just like, okay, I can exploit them by doing this, and basically it was just like the softest. It was like a week of tournament poker, but like when you study and like study these stats, the game just becomes so easy to like play against these guys that it's like you almost feel like you're not making any mistakes because you just know what they're doing, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So during the series, first day I got like 15th and like some like 270 for like 1500 or something, and then I like bubbled the high roller, and then I ended up FTing the 320 8 max, and I ended up getting like fourth for like 10k, so it was like a really good start. And then next 3 days he FTs something every day, and I don't. I still like had some cash and stuff, but like I didn't FT anything. Oh, actually, I like FT some of the small stuff, but like his runs were definitely like more significant than mine. So I was like sweating it really hard. So the anti sweat was real. It was like it was kind of fun because like I had a group chat with him and Ricky, and we were just talking shit and like joking around stuff. So it was actually like a lot of fun playing tournaments during this time, you know. Even though we had like a challenge, we bet $3,500 on who would make more money during the challenge, and we bet $2,500 for each extra win. So yeah, I started off ahead of him the first day by a lot, and the next 3 days he caught up by a little bit every single day because he would make a deep run turn, but like either get unlucky or whatever, lose a flip or whatever. So then with like 2 days left, I'm up like a small amount, and I get second in a tournament for like just under 10k, and so I'm up around I want to say like 12k going into the final day. But the final day had like a $2,100 tournament, a 540 milli, just like a bunch of big stuff was going on. So like it's a Sunday, like anything can happen. And he ran very poorly, and I ran okay. Like I made some money on Sunday and like didn't break everything. But neither of us won a tournament, so the damage wasn't as big. I made $3,500 in the bet, and I got better at tournaments, and the challenge was a lot of fun. So I'm really glad I did it. Prop bets in general are just like honestly a lot of fun. Like I make like small prop bets with friends all the time, just like dumb stuff, and it just makes things a little more exciting. And there's just like more competitiveness to it, which is like one thing I love about poker in general. Just like being able to beat someone and like outperform them in a way, even if like there's variance and stuff. So yeah, I enjoy the prop bet a lot.
Okay, cool. So yeah, speaking on competition and stuff, because I know a lot of players do that. Like when Tom Dwan didn't have a bracelet and he wasn't playing any tournaments, because like, why would I play tournaments? I want to play cash. He had that bet with, I think it was Ivy, who could win more
Yeah.
bracelets. And suddenly Tom Dwan was playing every single tournament at the Rio. And actually, I got to sit at a table with him in like a 3K event or something. Dude, it was so uncomfortable being at his table. Those eyes that he has, he just looks at everything. I'm like, dude, I'm so scared of this guy right now. But yeah, the prop bets definitely help to get people motivation to follow through. I was wondering if maybe that's the main way you do it, but is there anything else that you implement to stay motivated to grind and to study?
One thing I do is I watch a lot of like the top players. One guy who's like basically my hero is like Linus Love, who's like I think he's my age. I think he's like 22 as well, or maybe he's 23, maybe he's like slightly older, but like he's basically around the same age as me. But yeah, he's just like top two player in the world right now. It's just really funny because like he just like in the past 2 years he just like exploded, right? So it just like motivates you seeing guys like that who just like work super hard, just like grinding every day, running sims, doing whatever they can to get better, and then see them make it. I'm just like, okay, how do I get there? So I don't think I'm gonna be playing like 50, 100 on stars or anything. Just because being the best cash player is appealing to me for sure. Being one of the best live players is actually like a little more appealing to me, just because of like the social aspect we were talking about, and like being good at like live turns. There's a lot of variance. It doesn't mean like as much, but just being able to compete with the best is definitely like a goal of mine. So watching the best and seeing what they do motivates me, and having goals motivates me a lot. Like my current poker goals is like be able to play all 10Ks and lower on my own roll in the summer, and being able to like start finding some 25Ks in the summer as well, be competitive in these games and actually winning. I don't expect my RA 25K to be like like 30% plus or anything, like probably not even 20% or 15%, but it's just like the competition. Like I was saying, like the cash, like I have an okay amount of liquid and funds that I'm like fairly complacent with like the money amount. So like all I care about right now is like actual getting better at poker and being able to compete with the best. Because when I played basketball, competition was what drove me, right? Like trying to like outclass someone in this game. It's kind of the same way I'm trying to outclass people in poker and surpass them and outthink them in certain like an analytical way. And that's just like what drives me to just continue to be able to get better at that. And when you learn something in poker like that's new, especially when you're like you feel like you're just like getting better, and when you feel like you're like one of like the better players in poker, and like when you learn something new, it's so rewarding. It's like, holy fuck, this is amazing. Because especially when you look back like 6 months beforehand, if I look back 6 months from where I am now, I would just like laugh at the plays I did, right? So like that always feels really nice to be able to just say I was awful 6 months ago and I'm so much better now, and just so rewarding to like have that feeling where you're like I'm improving constantly, and my results are showing it, and being able to one day play the highest stakes is going to be like a gift for myself, because or like a reward, because I've achieved my goals of like trying to be one of the best in a way.
So is that kind of like what you think of when you think about legacy? If you think about like how you want to be remembered by your peers, is it kind of Ali worked hard and hard work pays off? Or what would you really want to come to mind when people think about like Ali Imsirovic, 3 to 5 years from now?
Definitely hard work. So growing up, we moved to America when I was like 3 years old from Bosnia, and like we just had nothing. And my dad was working like 3, 4 jobs and shit, and just like making sure we like had good grades in school, and just him and my mom both. The amount of hard work they put to like get us here and stuff, it was like really inspiring to see like how hard one will work to like achieve their goals, especially for like their kids and stuff. So it was always like in place in me to just like hard work is what's important, right? So being able to work hard at a game, you just improve and prove that like, the harder you work, even though there's like variance and luck and stuff, like as long as you work really hard, you can still make it. I think that's what Wama likes to be about, basically, where it's not just like, oh, he got lucky and just, kept getting lucky. No, it's like he's good at poker and he's worked really hard to get here. Like, I don't want to say, as long as you work hard something, like you'll get it, because like a lot of bad stuff can happen, and like a lot of misfortunate events can happen in your life that will not allow you to get there. But if you work hard, you're much more likely to succeed in whatever you work hard in than not.
100%. If you don't work hard, good luck. You are going to need a lot of it. If
Yeah,
you work
exactly.
hard and you've got good skill, luck is not so much of a requirement, but just a bonus that speeds up the process and makes it a bit more useful.
That's also one reason where like I don't want to say I have animosity, because like a lot of my friends are tourney players, but like when I think about like tourney players, like a lot of them, from like what I know, from what I've seen, like they just like show up, they just like wake up whenever and just like sit down at their computer and just like load up tournaments, and just like are basically just like hoping to get lucky without like working very hard, or they're just like looking to bink, basically, right? It's like looking to bink some tournament, and there's like, yeah, now I have money and I can go smoke some weed and blow it on whatever, and then I'll just go back to play tournaments. Like it's just like so like kind of infuriating. Not like I won't say infuriating, but it's just like annoying, especially when like a tourney player just like wins something and just like they think they're like the best, and like, yeah, I'm the best at poker, I can beat anybody. It's like you just got really lucky, while this cash game guy over here is like playing 200 now, who's like way better than you, working really hard, and you're playing like $1,000 tournaments, and just because you got like very lucky. So that's like why I have like a little bit of animosity, I guess, towards some tourney players. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's why, like, if you win the main event, you'll probably be saying the same things in interviews when people are like, so, how does it feel to win this tournament? You'd be like, well, first off, let me point out the fact that I'm not a tournament player, but it was okay. I quite enjoyed it. But I am not, and I repeat, I am not a tournament player.
It was okay, but I am not a tournament player. Yeah. Oh, what about you? What was what basically motivated you in poker? I'm very curious, actually.
Ooh, what motivated me in poker? When I first found poker in college, it was the first thing that I felt I was really good at and that I was a natural at since the online role-playing games. But this is the first thing that I could do, with other people and, in public. It kind of embraced my natural skill set. I learned to play cards when I was very young. My grandmother taught me how to play cards. I play with her all the time. My uncle would play cards with me and my cousin and my sister. And the fun thing was we'd gamble for like really small amounts. And if we won, every point that we won, we'd get a nickel. And if we lost, we'd have to do chores for those points. So I made it a point of doing everything I could to get a bankroll together so that I wouldn't have to do any chores. And I learned at a young age that if I could be really good at a game and really outsmart people and outplay people, especially if there was money involved, that I could actually avoid having to quote unquote work. And I told my grandma, when I grow up, I'm going to play games for a living. So it kind of like when poker came around, I'm like, okay, like maybe this is it. Actually, when my friend first told me about poker, I'm like, that game sounds stupid. I'm going to keep playing whatever video game I was playing at the time. But then later I'm like, let me try that out. I was good at these online role-playing games, but, I couldn't really share that with people. There were, 3 other guys in the school who played them who I could talk to. And I could tell them about, like, how I sold my account for $300 and how smart I was. But poker was something that people could see me play. And then I could play with people and people would be like, yeah, like Evan's really good at poker. I love studying. I love the learning. I'd read all the books. I love staying ahead of the curve. And I love the instant gratification that came with winning the money, right? It's a good feeling when you win. So I got a lot of like self-confidence and self-worth derived from this. And when I saw my friends who were like struggling with school and they're like, oh man, like it's so hard to do all this like studying. I'm like, well, I'm having the best time ever doing what I'm doing. So maybe I'm doing something right because I'm studying, I'm working hard, I'm becoming a better person, but I actually love what I'm doing. I saw that if I was going to devote myself to this and do it properly, that I could probably be free of, the 9-to-5 system for my entire life, provided I continued to learn along the way and learn the other things I needed to, which is why I read and research and do workshops on topics not related to game theory and mathematics anymore. But that was only once I felt I had a strong enough foundation. And I feel that this kind of entrepreneurial attitude, this kind of like hustler's ambition, really provides the people who are willing to go with it freedom to live the life that they want and to design the life that they want to design. And that's something I've always just really craved, is like freedom and choice and the ability to do what I love to do. And as soon as I played my first game of poker, even though I lost, I'm like, I love this. I want to be doing more of this.
Would you say you were addicted to poker?
Addicted to poker.
Yeah.
I would say that, in third year, I was studying it pretty intensely. I was playing it pretty intensely. It definitely cost me quality of social relationships. Like things dissolved with some friends and some partners because I was so obsessed with poker. I don't know if I'd quite say I was like full on. I guess when I like wasn't working out anymore and stuff, I was like pretty addicted. But like I was more addicted to like pot and other things that I would use to like medicate. Like poker would get me really like wound up, and then I needed things to like help unwind me. Like I was obsessed. I was obsessed with poker, but I wouldn't say I was addicted. I would say that actually when I was streaming and when I had that same thing where I'm like, I need to like win a live tournament. I need to win a live big field tournament, and I need to get these big results online, and people need to see that I am successful. I much more succumbed to addiction when I started playing tournaments exclusively in 2013 and put that pressure on myself with the brand, which was self-imposed, but still I put it there. And that's when I actually experienced addiction. And it was much more like an addiction to achievement, an addiction to success. Whereas when my lifestyle was all based around cash games and there wasn't these big buy-ins and these big stress things and all this traveling and, I was in the comfort of my own home, I would say that I was obsessed, but not addicted.
I think addicted is a good word for me. Like, basically with poker, like, I think I'm playing probably around like 12, 13 hours a day right now. Just like playing like infinite, and like it's definitely a sacrifice for like, your actual social life and all this other stuff. But it's like a conscious sacrifice, and like I know I'm addicted, but it's like at a point in my career where like I kind of want to be addicted to something. I think a lot of people like who have like, good interesting jobs are addicted to their jobs as well, and like that's not going to be looked upon as bad by other people, because like, okay, they have a good job, they're making a lot of money, and they're doing something beneficial. While if you ask someone if someone's like, I'm addicted to poker, and they're just like, oh, you're a fucking gambler, basically, you just can't help yourself. And like to be fair, like I understand their viewpoint, like I am addicted to gambling technically with poker. Like I don't gamble with anything else, but like with poker I'm definitely addicted to it, right? And the thing is, with your actual like other parts of your life, I think they're like very affected. Ben and I were talking about it, and like I feel like both of us felt in a way where we're kind of emotionally distant in a way to other people, especially when we're playing a lot of poker.
Yeah.
We were talking about how in like there's some social spots where say something bad happens, and we're just like logically we're just like, well, that happens this often, well like and that's why like most people are just like being like caring and warm towards the other person. We have to like almost like portray that in a way instead of actually feeling that.
Yeah, I think to be successful in poker, you really do have to kind of turn off your emotions for the most part because they can get you into trouble. You have to be detached from feeling because the very amount of money that you're risking and betting, even if you're doing it wisely, is still extremely stressful for the human being.
Yeah.
Right? If you really think about what it represents. So we kind of have to numb ourselves to financial investment. And because that's such a significant thing survival wise, I think it leads to us being very numb in other ways as well. Also, because a lot of people in live poker are, like you said, very serious, very intense, like very negative or whatever. We kind of have to numb ourselves emotionally to them because if we could feel that, we'd feel a lot of stuff that we don't want to feel. And while we're playing, that serves us. But while we're not playing, it doesn't always serve us and it can be dangerous. But the thing is, you can learn to be out of that state. But whatever you do, the majority of your waking life is what your default is going to be. So because you spend so much time doing rational calculation and kind of having to be emotionally distant while you're playing, 2/3 of your waking days, it's only natural that that's going to be your default in other situations. And while you have access to the other ways of being, like the emotionalness, the heart awareness, it just requires more effort to tap into that kind of neural net, that way of processing things, whereas your default is just to like look at things logically. So you do have access, it's just the other pathway is like much stronger. There are ways that you can train the other side of the brain, but because you're at a state where like you just want to make the most you can and get the results, it kind of makes sense to just be like, I'm going to let that be off for now, and then I'll cultivate that side of myself later when it makes sense. I think it's important to look at the difference between addiction and obsession. I don't know the exact definition of obsession, but I believe it would be something like, it's what you think about all the time. And it's something that when nothing else is going on, that's what you're thinking about. Whereas addiction is different in that addiction is when you know a behavior is negative for you and having harmful effects, but you are unable to stop the behavior. And given that, like, when your friend was stressing and you were 10 tabling and had a lot of equity in play, you were able to leave the scene to go take care of your friend. That tells me that you are not in a state of addiction because you can see when other things are more important and you're able to be like, I need to stop this to go do that.
Didn't really think about it like that, honestly. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I think if you look at like any of the most successful people in the world, whether it's in poker or whether it's in sport, people would say that they are completely obsessed and completely addicted to what they do. Yeah. So for someone who's a really high achiever, that's just kind of a default state. And until you've hit the level of achievement that you feel is the amount that you want, you're going to keep going hard. You know what, dude, that's cool. That's kind of what our 20s are for, is to like go hard and get after what we want to get after.
That's true.
Talking about that, if you did get everything you wanted, let's say, you had $100 million in the bank, or you lived in a world where money didn't matter, but you could have whatever you want. Maybe you're in your mid 30s at this point, maybe in your 40s. What does your dream look like?
I would say a mix of like feeling successful and relaxed at the same time, where like I feel like I've accomplished most of what I want to do, and like I'm at like peace with everything I've done and like with like the steps I've taken in my life, right? Whatever that be, that may be like I have no clue where I'll be living in 20 years. Maybe on some remote island, maybe where I live now. I like can't even say. As long as I have like the people that I want around me and like have good friendships and like feel good about myself and like what I've done throughout my life, I don't really think I can ask for much more.
Are we building houses, Habitat for Humanity style? Are we chilling? Are we golfing? What are we doing?
It would probably be a lot of like traveling to, I want to say, poverty-filled areas mostly, and just like when I've already like accomplished what I want to accomplish, and like if I'm like financially like healthy, if I can just like help out. I don't know where I'll be. I don't know how I'll help out, but like it's something I talk about with my sister a lot. Is actually, and something that she's like really passionate about is just like trying to help others and just trying to actually do something for society in a way. Because like with poker, we don't really do anything, right? It's a very selfish act that we're doing with poker. It's basically all about us. So
Yeah.
then once that's over, you know, to like go to the other side and just see everything from a different perspective, and everything that I've earned and accomplished, I can give back in a way now, right? And I can actually do good with everything that I've gained through poker.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Sounds like you're really passionate about people. You're really passionate about learning. I know basketball was kind of the focus of your life for a long time, and poker is now currently the focus, the primary focus. Is there anything else that like you're really passionate about that maybe I don't know about you, or that other people don't know about you that you want to put out there? Something you're just really into. You really love it.
I really like anime, actually. A lot of times when I play my sessions, there'll be something running. Like I still enjoy playing basketball. I still do that whenever I can. Oh, actually, I really enjoy going to new coffee shops. Just like because like they're all like different. They all have like different like vibe, and like there's always like different like flavor, or like just a different look. I don't know. It's just like really cool experience, like different coffee shops, and experience like different countries as well. I've been through like every country in Europe, I would say, and not every, but like most. And I've been through Barcelona, Dominican Republic. Uh, I, I don't know. I've been through to a decent amount of places, and just being able to experience all these different walks of life is really something that I enjoy doing.
That's pretty cool. Are you most into the food, the art, the music, the sights, the
I
people?
would say food, sites, and people are the top three. We're actually planning on going to Japan soon. We're going to Aussie Millions in January, and then probably taking a month at home, and then going to Japan for a little bit, where basically like the food is insane over there. Like so much different kinds of sushi, and just so much like unique things I've never tried. The way the people live there is much different than here. It's like a complete 180. And the sightseeing, just like seeing like places like Mount Fuji and stuff like that is just like I don't know what the right word is, but it just like puts things into perspective, you know.
Traveling to Japan sounds absolutely amazing. All right, so you got Aussie Millions in January. You got Japan in March. What else do you have planned between now and the World
Um,
Series?
well, I'm currently in Vegas, just grinding cash. But next month there's going to be a few 1600s and 2200, and then there's going to be a five diamond, which is basically just a bunch of 1Ks, and then the 10K main, which that's going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to that, and then I'll be home around like mid December and be home for like probably 3 weeks, where I'm just gonna spend time with the fam, and then Aussie Millions, which is like I'm like looking forward to so much. I've heard nothing but great things about Australia, and the poker right here is amazing. The area is amazing. I just like I don't know. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
just don't forget to go to Byron Bay. After the tournament's done, get yourself a week or two in Byron Bay. Oh, it's so good.
Okay.
So, will you be like tweeting or doing any Instagram? Like, if people want to follow you on your like little poker adventures here at Five Diamond in Vegas, Australia, Vegas, Europe, whatever, where can they do that?
I guess just Instagram and Twitter would be the two places to get some more info on me if you want that.
Okay, cool. So if you guys want to follow him on Twitter, it's Ali Imsirovic, Imsirovic. And if you want to follow him on Instagram, it's all in Ali with underscore. So all underscore in underscore Ali.
I feel like you know my handles better than I do.
Well, I got to keep an eye on the team captain, man. Team 7 official captain up in here.
Yes, sir.
All In is part of the Poker News Podcast Network, which covers everything from the world of poker with plenty of insight, analysis, strategy, and commentary. Learn more about the other shows on the Poker News Podcast Network. Look them up on Audioboom.
And actually, talking about keeping an eye on you, I mentioned you in the Perfect Poker Player video on YouTube. I think you probably remember that. I said that The Perfect Poker Player has the work ethic of Ali Imsirovic. What advice would you give to people who are in the beginning or mid stages of their poker grinding, maybe the first couple of years of their career? grinding small and mid stakes?
If I had to sum it up to one word, it would be efficiency. Basically, what I see a lot of people doing is just like grinding a lot, and like they feel like they're working hard because they're grinding a lot and just like putting themselves through like a lot of work technically, right? Because they're playing like a lot of poker, but they're not actually getting better. So if you want to play higher stakes and make more money play poker, if you're not getting better and you're just like basically doing the same thing over and over again, how are you going to be winning at higher stakes if you're just like barely winning at these lower stakes, right? So one thing that I see a lot of people doing, especially like I see people who play like $500 tournaments and stuff, but they're playing like $22 tournaments as well. Like they have like 16 tables open. So I'm just like, so like you're not paying attention to like these important tournaments because you have all these other tournaments open. Plus, instead of like there are days where it's just like small tournaments. So instead of playing small tournaments, why don't you just like actually work on your game and use your time efficiently instead of making this small hourly that's like nothing compared to like what you'll make if you actually get better and can play higher stakes in the future, you know?
Yeah, it sounds a lot like, first the importance of putting in quality over quantity, but it sounds like the difference between, well, honestly, addiction and achievement. Because the guy who's just clicking away every day and needs to be playing every day, who can't take time to work on his game, he's the one who's addicted. The guy who's looking for achievement, he plays when it makes sense and he probably plays a lot, but he also takes days off to study. He takes days off to unwind. I think it's easy for people to play a lot of tables and think since they're clicking a lot and making a lot of decisions that they're making themselves a better player, but that's not actually what's going on. If you're not present and you're not thinking things through and really cultivating your thought process in every spot, you're actually a lot of times just wasting your time and energy.
Yeah, I have two things I want to mention about that. Like, if you want proof that like that's the way to go, just look at Fedor. He himself said he was never like a heavy grinder. He never played like that many hands as much as a lot of people. He just like would study a lot and then use what he learned and play really good when he played, right? So and yeah, he's Fedor. But and then secondly, you can really grow complacent as well. Like if you're doing that, it's say like you're playing like $50 tournaments and you know you're making like an okay living, right? And you're playing poker and you're like, okay, I'm pretty good at poker. I'm making my 2K a month. I'm satisfied. It's like sure, if you're satisfied with that, that's fine. But like it's very easy to get complacent. I have a friend who actually recently, actually yesterday, messaged me on Skype and was like, I'm just trying to get some drive for poker again because he chopped a tournament this summer for like 300K, and since then he just has like no drive to like win a poker or like get better. That he's just like been on like a huge downswing. So it's like it's very easy to get complacent, especially if you're winning, and to just be like I'm good at poker, I'm good enough, I'm just gonna continue to win, and then it's like the game changes and evolves, and if you're staying the same, you're just gonna start feeding the fish or the guy that breaks even every month or whatever. So just being efficient and not getting complacent with your game, or if you can do both of those things, you'll do fine in poker for sure.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a really good point about like the other danger of tournaments is that when you do win, if the amount's really big and you don't have a plan, you don't know what you're going to do with that money or how you're going to handle yourself after you get the score, you'll hit that point where you're like, what do I do? I just won all this money, so I'm not motivated for money. Not a lot of other tournaments are going to yield me the same result I got, so what's the point in playing them? I've just come off
Right.
this crazy high. It's going to be hard to get that feeling again. I think that's why a lot of people who like big tournaments often end up doing a lot of drugs because they're trying to chase that high that only comes like at day 3, day 4, day 5 of a tournament. And when you play cash games, you simply don't expose yourself to that feeling, that emotional swing. And in tournaments, it's inevitable that in a big field, the big finishers are going to get that feeling. And if someone's unprepared for that, it's like when people win the lottery and a year later they end up not only spending all that money, but being in debt on top of it. It's kind of the same with the tournaments. If you don't have the right character in place, you haven't developed yourself to a place where you're ready for that score and you know what you're going to do when you get it, you can find yourself in this spot where you're really confused. You're like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's also why I think like non-financial goals are so important. The only time I had like financial goals were like during the challenge, basically, where like I just got to make more money than this guy. But like it was more of just like trying to beat him. But I'm not sure if like how it came across like during this talk, but I very rarely like even care about the money. Like I just care about like getting to a higher level and playing with people that are better or like better than me and trying to get better than them. Because like that's like it feels so much better. Like because it's like a real accomplishment. Instead of like when you win a tournament, you're just like cool. I have all this money. I can just blow. Like I'm like fairly happy with the amount of money I'm making. But like if you look at like the way I dress or like like or like the way I act, I guess like you would never assume I have like a lot of money, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of the most successful people in the world don't look like they have a lot of money, and that's kind of it, right? It's not about winning all the money. It's about who you need to become to be the guy who's capable of winning all the money. And that's what I always said about the main event. Because like, my big dream is be like Chris Moneymaker, be like Greg Merson, win the main event, win all the money, but to get to share that with the friends. And I tell myself, I used to think I wanted to win the main event because I wanted $10 million and wouldn't life be great if I had $10 million? But I've learned that it's not about winning the main. It's about becoming the person who's capable of winning the main. Because if I become the person who's capable of winning the main, I'm disciplined, I'm hardworking, I have a good network of people, I'm healthy, I have the energy to compete for 7 days. I'll become someone who just feels like a winner on a daily basis, where any money I get on top is a bonus, but it's not needed. And if I'm in that place, then when I get the money, I'll be responsible with it because I already feel good.
Yes, something I've noticed when talking to poker players is like you can instantly tell like what boat they're on. What group they're like. Most poker players are just like, oh, I lost this hand. Yeah, I lost this much money. Like you don't really want to deal with those. But then there's like the smaller group of people where they're just like, hey, this hand happened. What do you do on turn? What do you do on river? Da 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 da. It's my thought process, and they're just like literally just, like not thinking about like the money at all. I have like friends that play higher stakes now. We talk about poker all the time, just talk about stuff, but he's never just like, dude, I lost 50K today. Like they're playing really high stakes, and they're just like it's almost like never a financial thing. They tell me about these games, and they don't even say how much they won or lost. They literally like talk about the games and like things they should do to exploit the players and like get better or whatever. And like those are the kind of players you want to associate yourself with. The guys that are just like complaining the whole time and like yelling at the screen or whatever, those will just give you a headache.
This is what we talked about on the last episode is, if you want to roll with somebody, you got to be like that somebody. So for any of you guys out there who are listening, who are like, I'm tired of being surrounded by that first type of player, the one who just complains a lot or talks about the money, I want to be surrounded by those players who just think about spots and don't care about the money. If you want to be surrounded by those types of people, you yourself have to be someone who's like, you know what, I care more about being the best player I can be than being, the richest man in Babylon. And so I don't care how much money I'm making. I just care that I'm becoming a better player every day. And if I'm doing that on a daily basis, the rest is going to take care of itself. And, I will be supported with enough financial resources. I don't have to worry about being broke or being left behind because I'm being responsible with my money and my actions. Mm-hmm. Cool. I wanted to talk just briefly about the main event before we wrap because we're getting pretty late here. So you played the main event twice now. I'd just like to hear kind of your experience, how you feel about that tournament and how it compares to kind of every other poker tournament out there.
If it's your first time playing the main, it's like nothing else, honestly, especially if you like embrace the whole experience. I actually had some family that came out during the main, and like I was with friends and stuff, and it's so special in a way where you're playing poker, but it almost feels like it's more of an experience in actual poker. At least in like day one, like you feel like you're playing with much different characters and people, and everybody's like very happy to be there, which is something that doesn't happen in most poker tournaments. Everybody's like trying to like enjoy this like joint experience, and it just makes everything so much more fun at the table. The tournament itself is obviously like very soft, so if you can get in the main event, you should definitely play it. It's a great structure, great tournament, soft field. Yeah, I just like I can't say enough good things about the main event.
Yeah, and I can definitely say that it's not a front. People are actually happier because for a lot of people, it's like a bucket list thing where they're like, oh, I just want to play the main event one time in my life. I saw it on TV. It's been my dream to play the main event. So they're really excited to be there. And a lot of them don't even care what happens. They're just excited to be there. And the deeper you get in the tournament, the more this is true. I've made day 5 a couple of times, and everyone's like high-fiving each other when they're getting deep, because it feels like we're all on this like pilgrimage together, where it's like we're doing this like 7-day mission, and it's like all the poker players are trying to make it to the end together, and it's like the final table is this promised land that we're all seeking, like ancient cultures, like going to Machu Picchu, that 7-day hike. When you get there and you see it, you're like, oh my God, like we're almost there. And this kind of is like the poker pilgrimage. I remember Tony said when he made day 6 that it was even more pronounced. And Greggy said when he made day 7, it's more pronounced, that everyone's just looking around like, wow, we're still here. Wow, we made the next day. And it's every day you get farther, you're like more and more just in awe that you're actually there, and joy because you have all this money locked up and the chance for more. It really is. It's one of a kind because it's the only tournament where so many people get paid so much money, and so many people are in on satellites and make it deep that have no business playing those stakes, but that multiple people are getting like 50K, 100K, 200K before even making the final table. Creates a really different dynamic, and the dream's so strong for so many people because like I don't even have to win to get like really rich. I just need to make the 4th day.
Yeah.
And I am paid. And then it's just like once you're in the money, everyone's just riding the high of like how much they have locked up and the potential for those $1 million free rolls. That it's really special. And I'm really glad that we have that.
Like I don't want to tell a bad beat story or anything, but like it's like more of like for a good reason. It's when I busted the main, it was like I had top both for like quads or something, and like when I busted, literally like there was like zero, almost like I guess there's like a slight sadness where it's like I busted main event, but like other than that, there's like zero tilts and like getting cooler in like an absurd spot where like it feels like another time where I'm just like oh fuck, But like here I'm just like it's a big buy-in, and like I was so happy to just like play, and like the person that busted me, like I gave them a hug after as well, and I just like walked home and went and got some food with my friends, and like literally like didn't care at all. It's like such a special tournament.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, time for the next year to begin. Okay, cool. I mean, that's all my questions, man. We've gone through everything that I had to ask you.
I was hoping to ask one question real quick. What would be if you had to name one book that was most influential for you? What would it be?
Okay, 2 questions before I respond. First is, are we talking poker book?
No.
Oh, wow. Any book at all?
Yeah.
Can I give a few answers?
Yeah. I mean, like the more the merrier. I was like, what's like been most influential and like why? I guess.
Okay, so the book that was most like inspirational to me and motivational for me was called Moonwalking with Einstein. It's a story about the World Memory Championships where people, can memorize a deck of cards, every single card in every single position. And it's about this journalist who knew nothing about this world whatsoever, found out about it because he got put on to write a story about it, and then actually learned the skills to be a world memory champion. And it was really cool hearing the story about this guy who didn't know anything about it, found out about this world, immersed himself in it, and then became a champion at it. And that actually really motivated me to do that with poker tournaments, because I played cash, but I'm like, this tournament world seems interesting. Let me try that. And I basically followed the same thing of just talking to everyone I could, interviewing everyone I could, learning everything I could, practicing, being around the right people. So that one was a really good one for that. And then in terms of development as a person, a book called Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson is just completely out of this world. Anyone who hasn't read it will have their mind blown when they read it, and will just have a complete new understanding of all parts of themselves as a person, because there's a lot more going on than we think there is. So that was a really game-changing book that I read, I think, 2 summers ago. And of course, classic, just for really higher understandings and for just like relaxation too. I don't read a lot of poetry, but the Tao Te Ching has some amazing poetry about the Tao, or some people would call it God, some people would call it Great Spirit. And that book is it's just an absolute classic. It's very short, very easy to read, and it's very profound in its wisdom.
Cool. Thank you for that.
My man. This was an absolute pleasure. Okay, I'd like to thank all the listeners for tuning in. I hope you guys learned a lot of information on this podcast, and it's going to help you with your careers as a poker player, whether you're just starting out or far along on your way. If you know someone who you think could benefit from the conversation that Ali and I shared here today, please share this episode with them so you know that they can improve their game and probably improve their life in the process as well. And when you're done with that, you know what to do.
Take what you learn, go out there, and get stuck.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our sponsor, Grips Poker Training, and sign up for a free training bundle at www.gripsed.com/free. That's www.gripsed.com/free. Get a training guide and an advanced webinar of your choice, up to 10 hours of training material and over $150 in value, yours absolutely free. Full details are available at grips.com/free. Thanks again for listening. Thanks again for supporting the show. And when you've got that new training material, plus all your notes from this show here, you know what to do. Take what you learned, go out there, and get stacking.
Get stacking.